Any point from yesterday's discussion, you remember? The cause of sin is lust. Okay. Krishna says, Arjuna asked this question. What is that? Even though I'm not willing, still it is something which is forced on me. So what is that, Arjuna? So he says this is actually lust. Correct. And yes. In Ajit Guntu, you remember any point from yesterday's discussion?
Yes, Prabhu. So, like, one point which you mentioned last time, which I wanted to say in the class, but then I thought, in 38 verse, Prabhupada mentions in the purport that, the human form of life is a chance for the living entity to escape the entanglement of material existence. So in the human form of life, one can conquer the enemy lust by cultivation of Krishna consciousness under the able guidance. So like that's how, like again, continuing to the point which I mentioned last night, wherein taking Guru's shelter, we are protected from lust, and
Correct.
obediences to Guru, we can conquer lust.
Yeah, actually, that is one of the main, very important point. Because lust means what?
So,
Basically,
yeah, on a day-to-day basis, also like that's a teaching lesson for me personally. That how surrender to Guru helps us conquer, like maintain so many things in our life to maintain bhakti in general.
That's true. Yeah. Our bhakti also increases, and our unnecessary engagements, automatically goes away. Like that. So lust is an obstacle, and lust is what independently wanting to enjoy. That's why we whimsically want to act. But if we obey Guru, then we are actually, attacking on lust, because lust very force of lust is wanting to enjoy independently. But we are staying short of Guru. We want to abide by his instructions. So that means we are now trying to act as per Guru's pleasure, as per his direction. Then automatically, the lust gets subsided or crushed, curbed. Correct. And this is what King Rishabdev also, this one. Jad Bharat also talks in the 5th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. He says, Guru Charana Pada Ashraya Starena. I'll show you that verse. Very beautiful verse. I'll show you. Disobedience. Neglect. Good to see that verse. But it is so the same solution even Bhagavatam also gives. It's in 5th canto. Yeah. Yeah. Here it comes. This chapter. Yeah, this one. See? So thus, there is one easy weapon with which the mind can be conquered: disobedience. The mind is always telling us, do this, do that. So we should become very expert in disobeying the mind's order. And then he says, one should gradually train the mind to be obeyed by the orders of the soul. And it is not that one should obey the orders of the mind. So then he says, I should say that to control the mind, one should beat, which shows many times. Never control the mind. And this is the instruction of Shastra. If it does not do so, one is doomed to follow the dictation of the mind. And then he says, another bona fide process is to abide strictly by the orders of the spiritual master and engage in the Lord's service, as you said. See, same point is coming. Correct, no? Bona fide process to abide strictly by the orders of the spiritual master, engage in the Lord's service. then the mind will be automatically controlled. Then he said, when receive the seed of devotional service with the mercy of the Guru and Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, one's real life begins. So if one abides by the orders of the spiritual master by the grace of the Krishna, is free from the service to the mind. That's what he says. And the word here is, you can see, Guror Haresh Charano Pasanastro. Guror Haresh Charano Pasanastro. That means, but try to conquer this mind with a weapon of service to the lotus feet of the spiritual master. You're able to see? It is given here, 5:11:17. No, this is in Bhagavatam. Just try to conquer this mind by the weapon of service to the lotus feet of the spiritual master. And what is the main way the mind, is actually affected by is lust. So one can conquer this mind by the weapon of service to the lotus feet of the spiritual master and the spiritual master. Do this with great care. That's what it's saying. Here also say the same thing. The bona fide processes. Here it says. The bona fide process to abide strictly by the orders of the spiritual master and engage in Lord's service. Then mind will automatically be controlled. So with degree we take this discipline of Krishna consciousness under the order of Guru, automatically one can curb the lust. How it is. This is what the solution it gives. Otherwise, people become very big, scholars. They may go to MIT, they may go to Harvard. That doesn't help them to control the lust. And you can see even after going there also, they will have problems.
But sometimes people fear if they lose lust, they so I have one colleague so now he's shifting to a new apartment. There he has to be vegetarian because his roommates are vegetarian. So now he was telling me he's afraid that he will be vegetarian.
Yeah, that is understandable because that's what people think this is what life is. See, people think what sense gratification is the life, and if they miss sense gratification, they're missing something very important. That's what they think. That is because of ignorance, like that.
And they fear.
They fear, yeah. That's why the sad part. That's why I'm saying. That's what because they don't have understanding of the real goal of life. For them, sense gratification is the goal. That's why Prabhupada said, they say that you are crazy. Now, some people say that Hare Krishna fellows are crazy. They're giving up on this. And we say that, we know that they are crazy. You understand? So who is crazy? There was an article. Who is crazy? So, yeah, that is true. We read this verse, no? Yanisha Sarvabhuta. So how the night of self-addressed person is day for materialist. And the day of the materialist is the night of self-realized soul. So this is the principle. Okay, let's go to the next text 40. Indriyani manobuddhir
Indriyanirmanobuddhe
asyadhisthanamuchyate
Adhisthanamuchyate
etar vimohayati yesha
Vitarvimohati Isha
jnanam avritya dehinam.
Jnanam Avritya Dehinam.
You can read the translation. Can get
The senses, the mind, and the intelligence are the sitting places of this lust. Through them, lust covers the real knowledge of the living entity and bewilders him.
So here now Krishna explains. Can you give the bottom? Oh, the bottom. So here Krishna explains the strategic position where the enemy has taken, where enemy has occupied. So when we have to defeat an enemy, then we have to know where that enemy lies. That we have to see. So here is very nicely saying that the three places where lust is sitting. What are the three places? Senses, the mind, and intelligence. So someone's senses may be lusty, mind can be lusty, intelligence can be also lusty, like that. So, and through them, lust covers the real knowledge of the living entity and bewilders him. Purport is that the enemy has captured different strategic positions in the body of the conditioned soul, and therefore Lord Krishna is giving hints of those places, so that one who wants to conquer the enemy may know where he can be found. Mind is the center of all the activities of the senses, and thus when we hear about sense objects, the mind generally becomes a reservoir of all ideas of sense gratification. Mind is the center of all activities of the senses, and thus when we hear about sense objects, the mind generally becomes a reservoir of all ideas of sense gratification. And as a result, the mind and the senses become the repository of lust. Next, the intelligence department becomes the capital of such lustful propensities. Intelligence is the immediate next door neighbor of the spirit soul. Lusty intelligence influences the spirit soul to acquire the false ego and identify itself with matter, and thus with the mind and senses. The spirit soul becomes addicted to enjoying the material senses and mistakes this as true happiness. See, that's what you are talking about. So he identifies enjoying the material senses as true happiness. If somebody is said, become vegetarian, don't go for illicit sex. So then they will think my true happiness is being stopped. That's what they think. Because they consider that only to be true. For them, that is only. So this false identification of the spirit soul is very nicely explained in Srimad Bhagavatam. And that verse is also, that previously one line also came, no? That so so-called sense of happiness is the very enemy of the eternal soul. You remember? That line came before. It was here. See this one. While one enjoys some gratification, it may be that there is some feeling of happiness. But actually, that so-called feeling of happiness, in this previous verse only coming, is the ultimate enemy of the sense enjoy. You able to see? Just last paragraph. Last paragraph, last two lines only. See? It's the ultimate enemy of the sense enjoy. Because that is lust, actually. That's enemy. But we think that to be friend. Okay, so this is a nice purport, the verse Prabhupada quoted very often. Yasyatma buddhi kunapeti dhatuke sadhi kalatrādishu bhāma ijjati yattirtha buddhi salilena karhiche janeshu vigneshu saeva gokharaha. A human being who identifies his body made of three elements with his self, who considers the byproducts of the body to be his kinsmen, who considers the land of birth worshipable, and who goes to the place of pilgrimage simply to take a bath rather than meet men of transcendental knowledge there, is to be considered like an ass or a cow. You can see. So this is called Dehatma Buddhi. Yasyatma Buddhi Kunapeti Dhatuke. So because of that, one acts like animal. So this false identification is the cause of all this problem. Saying false identification of the spirit soul is very nicely explained. The spirit soul becomes addicted to enjoying material senses and mistakes such to happiness, and he identifies with himself with the body. So Prabhupada says in one lecture, he says about how you can conquer the lust. He says very beautiful example. He says that just like this lust is sitting where in the mind, lust is sitting in intelligence, lust is sitting in senses. No? So Prabhupada says that you put, instead of lust is there, now you put Krishna there. So senses you put Krishna, mind you put Krishna, and intelligence you put Krishna. Now let us hear from devotees. How can you put Krishna in your senses, in your mind, and your intelligence? And then that's how you can conquer the lust. So let's take input from all of you.
Senses like eating prasadam,
You take prasadam, correct? That is good.
watching TV,
Yes, from eyes you can take the darshan of the deities.
hearing Bhagavatam.
You can hear the Srimad Bhagavatam. Aditya, you can also tell input. How can you put Krishna, the senses, mind, and intelligence? Yeah. In mind, how can you?
Think of it
But how can you think?
like contemplation, like once you read it and
Correct. When you contemplate, mananam is called mananam. So you do mananam, then also you're applying your mind to understand subject matter or think of Krishna's pastimes. That's correct. Good. When you read the pastime, then you can think of it also. And you can share it with others. That way your mind is applied. What else? What way else you can think of Krishna? How we can keep mind Krishna in your mind?
like if you do service, think that you are doing it for this.
Correct. Yeah. You can consciously think of Krishna while serving and doing it for Krishna. That's why you're thinking of Krishna. Correct. Prabhupada says this, when you work for Krishna, naturally think of Krishna. That becomes natural also. It becomes easy for you. Yeah. Also, when you, Prabhupada said, when you chant Hare Krishna, also you can think of Krishna. By chanting Hare Krishna, also thinking of Krishna. Also, Prabhupada says one place that sometimes it's not easy to just think of Krishna, just sit and just think of Krishna, not so easy. But one of the very powerful way to think of Krishna is you hear. Hearing, you're engaging in senses also, but that what it does is it actually engages your mind also. Correct? No, because you cannot hear until you pay attention. So let's say you have to hear Bhagavatam or some narration, you have to read. Then what happens? Your mind is there. So Prabhupada says beautifully there. I think it comes in third canto. He says that, can locate that. It's very beautiful. They hear this. Read this point. Ajit Guru, can you read? Ajit Guru, can you read this whole thing? Are you there, Ajit Guru? Okay, I will read. He says, process of, you can see here. Can see. He says the process of meditating on the form of the Supreme Personality of Godhead within oneself and the process of chanting the glories and pastimes of the Lord are the same. So meditating and the process of chanting is same. How? The only difference is that hearing and fixing the mind on the pastimes of the Lord is easier than visualizing the form of the Lord within one's heart. Because as soon as one begins to think of the Lord, especially in this age, the mind becomes disturbed. As soon as one begins to think of the Lord, and due to so much agitation, the process of seeing the Lord in the mind is interrupted. When there is a sound vibrated, praising the transcendental pastimes of the Lord, however, one is forced to hear. And the hearing process enters into the mind. Then the practice of yoga is automatically performed. For example, even a child can hear and derive the benefit of meditating on the pastimes of the Lord simply by listening to a reading from the Bhagavatam that describes the Lord as he is going to the pasturing ground with his cows and friends. Hearing includes applying the mind. In this age of Kali Yuga, Lord Chaitanya has recommended that one should always engage in chanting and hearing Bhagavad Gita. The Lord also says that the Mahatmas or great souls always engage in the process of chanting the glories of the Lord. And just by hearing, others derive the same benefit. Yoga necessitates meditation on the transcendental passion of the Lord and whether he is standing, moving, or lying, etc. So you understand this point, no? So, Hare Krishna, bro.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Sorry, Prabhu. I got I had to call Vanamali Pandit Prabhu to check something urgently.
Okay.
Yeah, sorry, Prabhu.
So either you were you there for this purport when we read?
No, Prabhu. I just ended the call with Vanamali Prabhu and I put on my
Okay,
headphones now.
so see what he's saying here. We were discussing that how the way to conquer lust is to understand that how the sitting places of lust. The sitting places of lust is mind, intelligence, and senses. The three sitting places of lust. So now all these three places, Prabhupada says the simple solution. Prabhupada says, okay, lust is sitting there, no? You put Krishna there. Prabhupada says this is the solution. If you put Krishna in your senses, put Krishna in your mind, put Krishna in your intelligence, then there won't be any lust. Lust will go away because Krishna, Surya, Sam, Maya, Handika. Lust means it's Maya. And Krishna is Surya. No? So Krishna, Surya, Sam, Maya, Handika. So as soon as you put Krishna, lust will go away. That's what Prabhupada says in the lecture. On this purport, in this series, Prabhupada says on this very nicely explained. So we were discussing that how you can put Krishna in your senses, how can you put Krishna in your mind, and how can you put Krishna in your intelligence. This is what we are discussing now. So first we discussed that how we can put Krishna in our senses. So Prabhupada was giving different ways we can do. We can see the deity of the Lord. We can hear about the Lord. We can hear the holy name. We can visit holy places and see the holy places. We can touch the holy water. So we can drink Charnamrit. This is all purifying our senses. So we are putting Krishna. We take prasadam. We can take prasadam. So this is how we are. Yes, Prabhu.
सॉरी गोपाल है क्या?
नहीं प्रभु नहीं दे, पता नहीं कहाँ गया। ये आए नहीं, वो रूम पे आए नहीं।
आवाज दो उसको, उधर ही है क्या? देखो
See whether it's in washroom or something. Is here? Where? Can you go somewhere? Why sitting there? Gopal bro, come here inside. What happened? Okay, I won't ask. Just come.
है ना?
He's there. Just come, don't worry. Just come. Just come. He's there. He's sitting outside the door and making notes.
Call him.
Prabhu, come. Come, don't worry. See, this your Ratan is here. Come. Gopal, we need you in the discussion. Otherwise, discussion won't be complete. Come. So, come inside. So then he says, beautiful purport. Nice, no? So, see then, then we discussed about how we can apply the mind. So then he also gave some examples. But here in this purport, very beautifully Prabhupada writes. That's what we just read. So I will read again for you. See, he says, the process of meditating on the form of the Lord within oneself and the process of chanting the glories and pastimes of the Lord are the same, he says. And he says the only difference is that hearing and fixing the mind on the pastimes of the Lord is easier than visualizing the form of the Lord within one's heart. Because as soon as one begins to think of the Lord, especially in this age, the mind becomes disturbed. And due to so much agitation, the process of seeing the Lord in the mind is interrupted. When there is sound vibrated, praising the transcendental pastimes of the Lord, like when you're hearing the lecture, Maharaj may be describing Chaitanya Lila or Krishna Lila, or just talking about Krishna or some, or any, philosophy about Krishna. Then what happens? When there is sound vibrated, praising the transcendental pastimes of the Lord, however, one is forced to hear. Because when you're hearing, you're applying your mind. And then he says that hearing process enters into the mind. And the practice of yoga is automatically performed. For example, he gives an example. For example, even a child can hear and derive the benefit of meditating on the pastimes of the Lord simply by listening to the reading from the Bhagavatam that describes the Lord as he's going to the pasturing ground with cows and friends. Correct, no? Because when you're hearing all the narration, then what is happening in your mind is automatically there, is visualizing. So automatically you're with Krishna. It becomes so easy. So one of the way to always keep Krishna in our mind is when you're attentively you're hearing the holy name and when you're hearing the glories of the Lord also. So when the Lord is being glorified by different pastimes or narrations, then one can hear simply by hearing you're thinking of the Lord. Beautiful. Now, when I read this purport, I was so amazed. I think really, Prabhupada is saying so practical. Because in Kali Yuga, suppose somebody is, some new boy also, if you tell, think of Krishna, how do you think of Krishna? But if you just narrate a beautiful pastime of Krishna and tell him something about Krishna, then he's hearing, that means he's associating with Krishna, you see. Immediately Krishna is there in his mind. Then his mind will change. So this is a beautiful thing. So that's why Lord Chaitanya has recommended one should always engage in chanting and hearing Bhagavad Gita. So that's how we can remember that Krishna. That's how Krishna can always be in our mind. Interesting, na? Ajay Gangru?
Oh, yes, Prabhu, I'm listening. It's
very interesting, na, this one?
Yes, Prabhu. Yes.
Yeah, this is how by hearing one can be, having Krishna in his mind. That's it. So now how can we engage our intelligence? How can we put Krishna in our intelligence? Or how will we do that? Any clue? Gopal, can share any point? How we can put Krishna in our intelligence?
Smaranam.
Sorry, bro?
Smaranam.
Smaranam is more with mind, like intelligence.
Reading Shastras, basically.
Correct. That is one way. When you read scriptures, then actually we are trying to understand. So your intelligence is also applied, correct.
And then meditating on Shastras and trying to learn them, basically. I don't know.
Yeah, basically intelligence is analyzing, comparing, contrast, making a contrast. So that is good. So when you study scriptures, you need some intelligence also. And then you can apply your intelligence. So Krishna says in Gita also, by hearing the reading and hearing this narration of Gita is actually worshipping Krishna with one's intelligence. This is how you're worshipping Krishna with your intelligence when you're reading Bhagavad Gita. Because you are trying to understand, no? So intelligence is applied. Correct. Then you ask questions, then you get clarification. So intelligence is applied. What else way Krishna intelligence can be applied? And how we can put Krishna in our intelligence? Gopal, do you have any or more ideas? How we can do that? Think. you can use your intelligence for doing a service. Correct, no? Papa says, no, use your intelligence. Papa says, no. So you can use your intelligence. Like, intelligence is required to think of how can we expand this movement. Intelligence is required. How can we, do nice service to, like Ajit going through used his intelligence and made that, what halwa it was? Strawberry halwa, na? When Niranjan Swami Maharaj came.
Yes, Prabhuji.
Yeah, so immediately he just, Maharaj told and he just, used it. So that requires some intelligence, no, to do that. No, because you must have made first time, correct?
I had not heard of strawberry halwa before.
That also. Yeah. So,
I had to
then,
find a lot of recipe to make that.
yeah. So, but even to find the recipe, analyze and put the ingredients and use, you need intelligence, correct? No? So then you're using your intelligence in Krishna service. So this is very good. So basically, when you have some service and you want to, like do it nicely, then you have to use your intelligence. Like your Sadhya festival has to be put up. So in that, how we'll manage this, how we'll manage that. So a lot of intelligence is required. So one Marital keeps saying, no, that all of you are intelligent people, we should do very nice. It always keeps saying. So that means we have intelligence, so use it. Prabhupada say, you people, Americans, you have so much of intelligence and skill and all that. Why, if you cannot do something big, what is the use of your being Americans? It's so this is beautiful. So Scorpio, we had some beautiful discussions. We had some beautiful discussions, but it's recorded, so I really tell you to hear it later. Sure. You will. You will hear the recording later, right?
Sure.
Beautiful discussion. We are discussing how we can put Krishna in our senses, mind, and intelligence, as we discussed. Yeah. So this is different ways we can use our intelligence. No? For preaching also, you need to intelligence, because let's say some people come, let's say some kids come. So then you have to present the same philosophy. You have to apply your intelligence. How should I present the philosophy? So much intelligence is required. Say, intelligent preacher. He is very intelligent preacher because he used certain analogy, certain example that way. So that way we get, so in Krishna consciousness, we get opportunity to put Krishna in our senses, mind, and intelligence. That's how very swiftly and quickly a devotee who is nicely engaged in Krishna consciousness can get rid of lust. So the way to purify lust is to put Krishna in your mind, senses, and intelligence. Correct, no? So let's go further. Tasmatvam indriyanyaho. Tasmatvam indriyaniyadav.
Tasmat vam indriyayado.
Niyamya bharatarshabha.
Yamya bharatarshabha.
Papmanam prajahiyenam.
Apnanam prajahihenam.
Jnana vijnana nashanam.
Jnana vijnana nashanam.
So we can read. Yeah, Gita.
Therefore, O Arjuna, best of the Paratas, in the very beginning, curb this great symbol of sin, lust, by regulating the senses, and slay this destroyer of knowledge and self-realization.
Yeah. So you can take the Gita and give me. May buy it and give it. You can give it. Yeah, in that kind. You can take this Gita. For explaining. You can search your Gita also, because you have underlined before of him. Is it missing or the Gita is missing?
No, I remember last time I gave it to you and after.
Otherwise, take the new one. Maybe you can just underline them. Okay. So he's saying that from the very beginning, curb this symbol of sin. Rashtrakuta says, nip at the bud. Nip at the bud. When it's growing only, there only shoot it. And he says this one other thing. He says, shoot at the first sight only. The first sight only, shoot it. As soon as you see lust, immediately shoot it.
What verse?
And he says, this is the 41st. And he says that for lust, there is only one way to deal with it. You know what? Danda. Danda means you have to beat and shoot on it. There is no compromise. He says this. Lust means you have to shoot on it. Right? So it says that. Anyway, so it says very beginning, curb this great symbol of sin by regulating the senses and slay this destroyer of knowledge and realization. When he says the Lord advised,
No.
he says the Lord advised Arjuna to regulate the senses from the very beginning so that he could curb the greatest sinful enemy, lust, which destroy the urge for self-realization and a specific knowledge of the self. Jnana refers to knowledge of the self as distinguished from non-self, or in other words, knowledge that the spirit soul is not the body. Vijnana refers to specific knowledge of the spirit soul's constitutional position and its relationship to the supreme soul. And then he says, so jnana is in general is like, you're not the body or soul. But vijnana means when you understand you're a servant of Krishna. Jnana and vijnana is a difference. Correct, no? Jnana is just knowledge about body and soul is different. Vijnana means you're a servant of Krishna. That is vijnana. And then he says, knowledge of the self and supreme self is very confidential and mysterious. But such knowledge and specific realization can be understood if explained with various aspects by the Lord himself. And Bhagavad Gita gives us that general and specific knowledge of the self. The living entities are part and parcel of the Lord, and therefore they are simply meant to serve the Lord. This consciousness is called Krishna consciousness. So from the very beginning of life, one has to learn this Krishna consciousness, and thereby one may become fully Krishna conscious and act accordingly. So from very beginning, he's saying, from very beginning, one should curb this. So one of the way to understand very beginning is from the beginning of one's life. From very beginning of one's life, one has to learn this art of Krishna consciousness. Some people think, when I'll become old, maybe later I will do. Actually, it's dangerous because then what happens? You have no opportunity to purify your lust. That means you're going to live your life with lust, and that will create havoc in our life. So that's why from very beginning, that means now already we are late. So further we cannot delay. So we have to take this process of Krishna consciousness seriously, as in we got it like that. So say from the very beginning of life, one has to learn this Krishna consciousness, and thereby one may become fully Krishna conscious and act accordingly. So this is how the lust is only the perverted reflection of the love of God. So how the lust has come? Because of original love of God has got transformed or changed, perverted reflection, which is natural for every living entity, love of God, but now it has become lust. But if one is educated in Krishna consciousness from the very beginning, that natural love of God cannot deteriorate into lust. When love of God deteriorates into lust, it is very difficult to return to the normal condition. When it turns to lust, too much becomes lust, it becomes very challenging to again come back to the love. Of course, Krishna, Prabhupada says now. Nonetheless, Krishna consciousness is so powerful. Krishna consciousness is so powerful that even a late beginner can become a lover of God by following the regulative principles of devotional service. So, Prabhupada ki jai. Krishna consciousness ki jai. Yes. So even a late beginner can also become a lover of God by following the regulative principles of devotional service. So from any stage of life, or from the time of understanding its urgency, as soon as you understand its urgency, one can begin regulating the senses in Krishna consciousness, devotional service of the Lord, and turn the lust into love of Godhead, the highest perfectional stage of human life. So in one lecture, Zirasham was so much focusing on this point of regulation. He said, for us, it is very important we have a regulated life. Regulated life means what? We have some discipline of sleeping early, discipline of getting up early, discipline of chanting regular number of rounds, discipline of taking prasadam. So this is called regulation. Said the regulation is the key, because the regulation will keep us in touch of Krishna. If regulation is not there, then it becomes very challenging. Let's say we have no regulation, no, then our intake of Krishna, we cannot have any kind of assurance then. So it's very challenging. Just like for even a person who wants to study, there has to be some regulation. Then he can be a good student. He can learn the subject well. But if he is very casual and he just studies as per his feelings and moods, it becomes very challenging like that. So, especially in Krishna consciousness, regulation is very vital. So, those devotees who regulate their life, they are very regulated, and seriously they make their proper discipline and they do their committed devotion service nicely. Then you can see they can very nicely grow in Krishna consciousness. So, from very beginning, one should come like that. So, like there are many situations also, like sometimes some brahmachari also got some call, some from Mataji, some lady that proposing directly, in Pune, there are many cases like that. So that brahmachari, he immediately told his superior, like there's some risk on, and then they took some action and all, they found it, and then everything settled. So it became very easy, like in the beginning only. As soon as there is kind of something happening, so he did not take risk. Immediately he sorted out. The beginning only sort of becomes easy. Like Ramanacharya says that in this, see, like when you're living in this age of Kali Yuga, so you may, one may see, some member of opposite sex. It's quite normal in this Kali Yuga, because you're walking, you're going, you cannot be just closing eyes and go, like that. It's one of the way lust interest is through eyes also. So one has to be very mindful of his eyes. So Radhashamu says that's why we have this shutter. So we will be little cautious. We can put the shutter down whenever it is unfavorable. So he was saying this point. Ramanacharya says this point that if once, suppose, once, because we may encounter something. So, and then you take away, your eyes from there. So then still you're doing properly. You're like practicing good. But if you turn again you want to, see. So that way we, then we get more in that zone of inviting us that. So he says this formula. He says that, you don't again look back. So this is one austerity one should do. But he recommends that austerity for us to do it. It may be challenging, but we can mindfully, think like that. If something is which is, may bring lust in our mind, so we can, because there may be things like that. So you turn, you don't again look back. So that time mind tends to say again look back, again try to go in that direction. But if you stay, then you see that time the force is there. But if you have said no, then eventually you'll get some deviation, prostitution, concentration, these things go away, and that intensity also decreases. But if you get into that, if you again look back and you go in that direction, then it goes increasing also. Like that. Another brahmachari, he was there in some place in Maharashtra. So some young lady, started involving a lot and all that. And then this brahmachari also was getting a little disturbed. And then he told to, I think Radhanath Swami Maharaj or something like that, or his Guru Maharaj something. Then he tells you go to Chapati. And then he went to Chapati. And Maharaj, he stayed in Chapati. So out of mind, out of sight, out of mind. And then he was involved in Chapati with Brahmachari Ashram, and he got busy there, and he became ecstatic. Now he's a sannyasi. He's gone. And he himself told this story to all of us. He himself told that the situation was becoming like that. But he just changed his place, and he got fully involved. And then now he's a sannyasi. Actually, he took sannyas. He's preaching sannyasi.
Wait.
Huh?
Wait.
No, he's a sannyasi. He's a monk now. Not you. I'm saying he's a monk now.
Which?
That one guy who was he was a monk like brahmachari. So later he took renounced order, sannyas. But as a monk, he had some issue, some troubles, because some lady was kind of coming.
I see.
Yeah.
Yes,
But
yes,
then
yeah,
he changed the
that's
place.
true.
Yeah, he changed the place, and then he got involved in so much of bhakti in different place. Then he got over. So, but in the beginning, if you're not alert, and if you are, then it becomes very difficult to come back. That's what he's saying. So in the beginning only you cut it. Like some girl comes and proposes you. Oh, you look so beautiful, and you're young, you're
Wow.
handsome. No, let's go for a lunch. Like that, some lady may come. In America, it is like quite common. So now it's up to you. So if you, as soon as you detect it, there can be a possibility of getting deviated, wrongly. Then you can take control. Sorry, madam, I am very busy. I'm very busy today. You can just say very simple. Then it becomes very easy. Like that. Becomes easy. I remember in my college, first year, there was we all came like from our home, and it was like we were in our small city and everything. But here in college, like people have like got the extra wings and all that. So they were doing some kind of some playful thing behind. Then one girl came, and she asked started asking what's your name and everything. I told, and then she said, what's your phone number? I told, I don't remember. And it was new also. I just honestly told, sincerely told that I don't remember. And they said, okay, God. And then another fellow, later he came into, hey, what kind of person are you? She's asking your phone number, you told forward. I told, I don't remember this. I told, I don't remember. I told, hey, don't remember is what? You could have found out and given. I'm not so sharp like you. To do so many things. To find out the number and do and all. then the point I was saying that, so the thing is, when we detect, then we cut there only, then it becomes easy. But if you get into, let's say, you change the number, then you start talking, then you start chatting, then it doesn't end there. It can go on and on and on, and it can go in so many directions. That's it. That's why one has to be alert, because it is not, it's not in the right direction. So one should understand it's not dharma. One can cut there. So early you cut it, it becomes easy. The more you get into that, it becomes more difficult to come back. Of course, nevertheless, any situation you want, you can always come back, by taking shelter of the devotees and Krishna consciousness. But why to, unnecessarily delay? Why to go in that direction so much? One can be safeguarded like that. Correct, no? Yeah. So very be careful. So those brahmachari Ashram says, those who honest, they that time only they they are alert and they told to their superiors or they took their steps, then they were safe. But there are also cases where they did not say no. They start talking, they start, and then the Ashram says no, then it became dangerous, and they had to later pay the price. Like they have to go into unnecessarily wrong direction. That so we have to be careful. So not only for brahmacharis, for anybody, one has to be careful that not get into that zone too much. And we always careful. Dealing with the lust, one has to be very, very alert. Intelligence has to be really strong. And especially in dealing with opposite sex, one should be careful because Kapil Muni says in third canto that Pashyahi Maya, let's say Mama Maya, it says that the illusory energy of the Lord most powerful is represented in the form of woman for the man. Like that. So it's one of the most powerful, way the Maya presents herself, to the man like that. And see, the man's weakness is form. The woman's weakness is not form actually much. The woman gets attracted to different way. Her lust comes out in terms of trying to control and trying to get things. Like if she sees somebody very influential, this is explained in the scriptures actually. If she sees somebody very influential, somebody very powerful, so then he thinks if he gets him, then what happens? Then she has a lot of control because this is a big fellow. You understand, no? So her lust comes in the way that she wants to buy that way by her beauty, by her. So why she want to sometimes dress very beautifully and all that? How the lust comes? Because she wants to control. Because some big fellow will get control by her. And then she can get many of the material desires. So I'm talking about lust. When Vaishnava community, we don't have to see that way. But I'm saying, as core, when Shastras describe about the womanly lust comes in this way. Because Shastras make us aware how the material nature works. You getting, no? So their lust comes in that way, to control. And then by controlling, then she can get what she wants. Her material desires can be fulfilled. So like that. So this is how one of the name of the Shastri. Shastri means to expand material life. So their material desires comes in that way. Lust comes in that way, to control. And there are also lust comes in trying to be in center of. That's why you see that. That's why they may want to look attractive and all. They want to be center. So that is how the lust works for them. For the men, the weakness is form. For women, it is not like that. For women, form is not the main thing. For them, the main thing is different. And for man, form is one of the main weakness like that. So for man, it is more like sun gratification, like sense enjoyment. That for woman, it comes in terms of control more. That way. So this is what Shastras explain this way. But the point is ultimately the lust only. It's all lust. So curb the lust from beginning only. That is the what is being saying. So then he says, next verse will go. Indriyani paraniyaho.
Indriyani paraniyaho.
Indriyebhya param manaha.
Indriyebhya param manaha.
Manasastu para buddhir.
Manasastu para buddhir.
Yo buddhe paratastu saha.
Yo buddhe paratastu saha.
Yeah, read the translation.
He's working sense of superiority to all matter. Mind is higher than the senses. Intelligence is higher than the mind. And he, the soul, is even higher than the intelligence.
Yeah, so this purport is actually verse very nicely clarifies that how the hierarchy is. So working senses are superior to dull matter. Mind is higher than the intelligence higher than the mind, and the soul is higher than the intelligence, and higher than the soul is super soul. Like that. So it says senses are different outlets for activity of lust. Outlets. Senses are outlets. That's why we have to be mindful of what we are exposing ourselves to also. Those are outlet. That's why I said, no, the eyes are the outlet for lust. You can see. So lust is reserved within the body, but it is given vent through the senses. Therefore, the senses are superior to the body as a whole. These outlets are not in use when there is superior consciousness or Krishna consciousness. In Krishna consciousness, the soul makes direct connection with the Supreme Personality God. This is a beautiful point actually. See, in Krishna consciousness, the soul makes direct connection with the Supreme Personality Godhead. Therefore, the hierarchy of bodily function as described here ultimately ends in Supreme Soul. Bodily action means the function of the senses, and stopping the senses means stopping all bodily action. Since the mind is active, and even though the body may be silent and rest, the mind will act, and it does do as it does during dreaming. But above the mind is the determination of the intelligence, and above the intelligence, the soul proper. If therefore the soul is directly engaged with the Supreme, naturally the other awareness, intelligence, mind, senses will automatically engage. This is one of the very beautiful points. So Krishna consciousness is a foolproof solution because the soul is actually engaging in Krishna's service, because soul can directly connect to Krishna also. That's why we say, no, we have to heartfully apply Krishna consciousness, practice Krishna consciousness. So Bhurijan Prabhu says that when you're chanting, so one should consciously understand, being aware that I'm soul, and it's soul hankering for Krishna's love. Why this kind of so much of knowledge is given? So much is emphasized that understanding of the body of soul, because then you run to Krishna. As soul is, and so you are hankering of the soul. Like in chanting also, your mind may not be ready. Your intelligence is planning something. But if you have a very sincere intent, you must have seen that you got into chanting, because you are a soul. You're different from mind. You're different from intelligence, and you're different from senses. You got into chanting, after hearing you heard a lecture and all that, and you got Krishna, I want your shelter, my soul. I nanda tanuja kinkaram patitam mam vishmay bhavam. Then you can see how eventually mind and everything follows. Mind, in the sun, everything was cooperative also. You have experienced something when you got into, then even the mind was not ready in the beginning, but it follows then. You have seen sometimes, you observe like that. You have observed in yourself sometimes. It happens sometimes.
Yeah, last year.
Yeah, last year. But it does happen. When you get into, then it follows. Because soul connects to Krishna. Then others will also follow. And Krishna consciousness works on the platform of soul actually. It acts, it engages. Of course, it engages our mind and everything. But what I'm saying is, if you heartily do it, the soul can directly connect also. That's what it says here. It says, in Krishna consciousness, the soul makes direct connection with Supreme Personality God. Therefore, the hierarchy of body functions, it all actually ends in Supreme Soul. So it says in Katha Upanishad, there is a similar passage which says that objects of sense gratification are superior to senses. It says the same thing. And then he says, if therefore the mind is directly engaged in the service of the Lord constantly, then there is no chance of the senses will become engaged in other ways. You see. So basically, mind has to become Krishna conscious. Then automatically senses will be in control, because mind is a taskmaster of the senses. You have seen also, sometimes when your mind is not there, then this is you're looking at something, but your mind is thinking something else. So that seeing has no effect. Correct, no?
Yeah.
So that means, but it depends upon your mind. If your mind is Krishna consciousness, absorbed, you're having strong thoughts of Krishna and all that, then your senses may, sometimes come across some sense objects, but you'll not have much impact. But when your mind is not so Krishna conscious, then those sense objects makes more greater impact. Correct, no? It troubles more that way also. So that means if mind is engaged in Krishna service, then senses becomes more also engaged. Yeah, it follows like that. So it says that if therefore the mind is directly engaged in the service of the Lord constantly, then there is no chance that senses will become engaged other ways. This mental attitude has been explained in Param Drishta Nivatate, called higher taste. If the mind is engaged in the transcendental service of the Lord, we discussed that in the higher taste. There is no chance of being engaged in the lower propensity. The Katha Upanishad, the soul has been described as Mahan. This is very nice point. See? Soul is Mahan, great. Mahan means great. Therefore, the soul is above all, namely the sense object, senses, mind, and everyone. Therefore, directly understanding the constituent position of the soul is the solution of the whole problem. See? This we have to understand. The solution of the whole problem is that I am the soul. So I am not the mind, I am not the lust, I am not my envious feeling, lusty feelings, greedy feeling, I am nothing of that. I am soul. And Krishna consciousness will give you that meaningful engagement and meaningful attitudes also. Meaningful attitude also. Like we don't get service attitude. we get a sacrificing attitude, we get compassionate attitude. All these things we get from Krishna consciousness. But without Krishna consciousness, then we are having all the selfish attitudes. Selfishness is there, enviousness is there, pride feelings are there. So it's all different attitudes are there. So Krishna consciousness gives us the right kinds of attitudes. Very effective. Therefore, directly understanding the constitutional position of the soul is the solution of the whole problem. Charantan says this, you are not mind, you are better than your mind. Who are your soul? You are not your mind, you are better than your mind. Because sometimes people feel so inferiority complex about themselves. I am this, I am that. But you are not your mind. You are better than your mind, your soul. It's very empowering, actually. Very, very empowering. Don't worry about it. Leave it. It's very empowering. You understand that you are not the body, you are soul. With intelligence, one has to seek out the constitutional position of the soul and then engage the mind always in Krishna consciousness. That solves the whole problem. So we have to understand our constitutional position and then engage the mind always in Krishna consciousness. So mind should not engage us. Mind will have many thoughts, he will engage us. So soul gets distracted. But we have to engage the mind. So mind may be saying something else, but we will do something else. This is how discipline of Krishna consciousness can help you realize you are not your mind. So say your mind is not feeling like to do something, but still you do it because you understand, and it's not that I have to hear them. I'm different from them. When you do it, then you eventually you'll see that how mind also follows you eventually. It also becomes more specialized.
Yeah, it's like, I'm just, for example, whenever I do like my lab reports, it's always annoying and it's tedious, it takes a long time, but I still, once I start it, it's like you get going and then things go quicker and then it's like with chanting, right? And you start it slow and then you get faster and faster. So it's like at a certain point, it's like you kind of just, it all works together.
Correct, yes. So we are not the mind, we have to know that. This is a very important thing. It's very empowering if you understand this point. So it says with intelligence one has to seek out the constant position of the soul and then engage the mind always in Krishna consciousness. That solves the whole problem. A neophyte spiritualist is generally advised to keep aloof from the objects of the senses. But aside from that, one has to strengthen the mind by use of intelligence. If by intelligence one engages one's mind in Krishna consciousness by complete surrender to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, then automatically the mind becomes stronger. And even though the senses are very strong, like serpents, they will be no more effective than serpents with broken fangs, because enjoymentality is not. When enjoymentality is not there, it's not going to hurt you. That is the meaning of our mind becomes stronger. Even though senses are very strong like serpents, they will no more effective than serpents, because senses will lose any kind of gratifying tendency. So the poisonous teeth is compared to that enjoyment. So as you become more Krishna conscious by surrendering to Supreme Lord, then mind becomes stronger, means the service attitude becomes very powerful in the mind. Mind service attitude becomes very powerful. And even though the senses are very strong, serpents, it will not be effective because the service attitude will pervade. Because ultimately it's mind, the mind becomes full with sarcha, the seva bhav. Then senses will not act independently. So that's what he's saying. But even though the soul is the master of intelligence and the mind, and the senses also, still, unless it is strengthened by association with the Krishna and Krishna consciousness, there's every chance of falling down due to agitated mind. And senses can also agitate. Krishna says in second we discussed that. Even one of the roaming senses is the man who is having discrimination. He is having internal discrimination. He has the external endeavor and internal discrimination. Even such a man also, if one of the roaming senses, it focuses on sense object, can carry away the man's intelligence. So one has to be alert also. Though one may be Krishna conscious, still one has to be alert with his senses. Because that danger is there. But you can pull. You can pull somebody like that. So Vishwamitra Muni was engaged in austerities. And then one of the senses he focuses on, the ankle bell, and then he got carried away. So one of the roaming senses also can distract somebody. So that's why both way we have to try to strengthen the mind and be Krishna conscious. That way we'll be secure. And at the same time, we have to be alert with our senses as well. That we keep our program in a way that we are not unnecessarily trying to go in the direction where we get carried away by sense objects also. But at the same time, we have to be consciously engaging in Krishna consciousness. Because just trying to protect the senses from sense objects may not always work. That is one other thing tortoise found. But we have to also engage in positive Krishna consciousness. But then it's a foolproof solution. So, Tani Sarvani Samyamya Yukta Asita Matpara. We have to restrict the senses and engage in Krishna consciousness. Both things has to be done. The last verse, and then we'll end with this today. Evam buddhe param buddhva samstabhyatmanamatmana jahi shatru mahabaho
Yadi Shatru Mahabaho
amarupam durashadam.
Kamarupa Durashadam.
Ajit, maybe you can read.
Yes. Thus knowing oneself to be transcendental of the material senses, mind, intelligence, O mighty armed Arjuna, one should study the mind by deliberate spiritual intelligence, Krishna consciousness, and thus by spiritual strength, conquer this insatiable enemy known as lust.
Yeah, so
Lust.
similar solution. We have to conquer the lust by spiritual intelligence. It's hard. Read that. It's also helpful. The third chapter of Bhagavad Gita is conclusively.
I can read that.
Yeah. Can,
The third chapter of the Bhagavad Gita is conclusively directed to Krishna consciousness by knowing oneself as the eternal server of the supreme personality of Godhead without considering impersonal voidness, the ultimate end, and material existence of the life. One is certainly influenced by her propensities for lust and desire for dominating the resources of the material nature, desire for overlording and for sense gratification is the greatest enemy of the conditioned soul. But the strength of Krishna consciousness can control the material senses and the mind and the intelligence. One may give up work and prescribed duties all of a sudden, but gradually develop Krishna consciousness. One can be situated in a transcendental position without the influence of material senses and the mind. By a steady state of intelligence directed towards one pure identity, this is the sum total of this chapter in this immature stage of material existence, philosophical speculations and artificial attempts to control the senses by so-called practice of yogic postures never help a man towards spiritual life. He must be trained in Krishna consciousness by higher intelligence.
So there is one line very nice. He says, by study intelligence directed towards one's pure identity. It's very important. By study intelligence directed towards one's pure identity. So you get study intelligence when you are having this sambandha gyan strong about your pure identity. Then your mind is steady. Your mind gets bewildered. As soon as you forget your constitutional position, your intelligence is bewildered. So our intelligence can remain alert. The degree, or that is called spiritual intelligence, study intelligence. No? That's what he says. No? Sthita dhir mundi. His intelligence is fixed also. And there is also, he says, tasya prajna pratishtha. Pragya. Pragya means is pragya is intelligence. Buddhi parivatisthate. There is another thing. His buddhi is got steady, fixed. That is meaning the more you hear transcendental knowledge, sambandha gyan, to that degree our intelligence will be fixed in constitutional position. And the degree we are not, then intelligence is based on false ego. So that intelligence works on the basis of false ego and the body. And then intelligence will work in that direction. And like say somebody think I'm the body. So I'm a man. Then he wants to run after woman. And then intelligence will supply him ideas how to propose that girl. So that is called material intelligence. Lusty.
That's a downward spiral.
That is lusty intelligence. But if you understand, I'm not the body, I'm soul. That your intelligence is based on, it's called spiritual intelligence. That it is based upon the right conception, right identity. Then what happens? Then that intelligence will save you. You'll say, hey, this is not the right path. Hey, come back. This will ruin your life if you get into this kind of adharmic path. Right? So this is how spiritual intelligence will save. So study intelligence directed towards one's pure identity. That's one thing. And of course, yes, Prabhupada is explaining that how desiring to lord over and personal the greatest enemy is called lust. But strength of Krishna, one can control the material senses, the mind and intelligence. When we not give up work, so yeah, so this is again, because this whole chapter is about Karma Yoga. So basically, the initial discussion was this only, that Arjuna thought if somebody is giving up all work, I mean, if somebody is in self-realized soul at the other center, then that means is at peace, and that peace means no work, no engagement. That's what he thought. And then he took that somebody's engaged means he's having attachment. But here Krishna is talking about how one can work without attachment by spiritual intelligence. That way, will actually engaging in devotional service, will get purified also. Right? Even if he is not fully situated self-realization, but he'll get purified by Krishna consciousness. When you're working for the sake of Lord, giving you the fruits of your, becoming detached, because being detached by purified. So he thought that way. Somebody is engaged means he is attached, and somebody is disengaged means he is not attached. But unattached person can also be engaged, and unattached person can also remain unengaged sometimes. But Krishna is saying, Krishna is recommending you will remain engaged, and work on the detached platform by engaging Krishna consciousness. That way you can remain detached. And that's a practice, detachment in practice, and that will make you mature in detachment also. So this is the we have process of Krishna consciousness.
So why end it just for setting an example?
Yeah, but actually, Prabhupada explains this also, that by nature soul has to be engaged. So that kind of renunciation what they take, Jnani, that is actually not the real platform of devotional service also. So actually, this is always better. Even if suppose somebody is unattached and is renounced, which is better? Unattached and engaged.
And then
Yeah. The Prabhupada was renounced, but what kind of renounced person? He was so engaged in preaching Krishna consciousness, chanting, so much engagement. Ishwadamaya is engaged. So on the highest platform, devotees are so engaged actually. So that's why this is actually that's why Jnana Yoga. That I sent the message also. So Jnana Yoga, even though we consider because Karma Yoga is dealing with still some kind of material task. Jnana Yoga person has got that knowledge, has become detached, but he has some more impersonalistic kind of action. And that's why sometimes it is not so favorable to him. But somebody who is in Karma Yoga platform, that is more closer, because that way he just he has to put things for Krishna. That's why you can become Nishkam Karma Yogi, can do Bhakti Yogi very fast. Jnana Yogi can take more time sometimes. Because it's devoid of Bhakti, you see. When it is devoid of Bhakti, it's, because he wants to remain just analyze, I'm not the body, I'm soul. He's not so much engagement oriented. Just study, discriminate, get academically, all that. So this is how it just tries to, is interested in that. So many times Mayavadi and all like that. Impersonalist Mayavadi, they get into this jnana mode. You understand? But those who become devotee, when jnana goes, it is Bahunam Janmati, jnana, Vasudeva Sarvamiti, that is different. And then they become devotee. Then such kind of person is very great. So that from that perspective, jnanis are considered good also, meaning they detach from material engagement, material attachment. So that way they can, if they come to Krishna, they can become very attached to Krishna. So from that perspective, sometimes jnanis are considered higher because they are in knowledge more sometimes in terms of how the material attachment doesn't lead to happiness. That kind of they have it. The material desires will not help us. That realization they may have a strong. So that perspective, it may be considered jnana or higher. You getting this point? So this is how it is. So unattached but being engaged. So what Krishna is recommending Arjuna. He's saying that and he told, if you're not attached and you're taking renunciation as a mithya. If you're not attached and you're engaging, then it is, I'm sorry, if you're attached and if you're not engaging, you're attached and you're not engaging, taking renunciation and you're attached, then it is mithya. Understand? That's what he said, that pseudo yogi and also they will artificially do that, and then they will engage also in some kind of sangat. They will do that. That's why they get into some women, this thing, some smoking and all that, they may get into, because they're doing it for some ulterior motives. So Krishna is recommending you remain unattached and engage in fighting for me. That is and then that is the platform of Karma Yoga here we may talk about, but actually it is Bhakti Yoga. Because when Krishna is saying you do it for me completely, just consider that as an order. Sar Dharma Bhakti Yoga. So Arjuna actually fought on the platform Bhakti Yoga only. And for some general person, if he is having attachment for his activities and fruit, so that way it is considered Karma Yoga. Okay, you do it for Krishna because he has still some attachment. But you cultivate Krishna consciousness, so that is will come to Bhakti Yoga platform. Okay, so any questions or comment?
We do before we go?
Huh?
To do a round before we go?
Yeah, just one point.
Oh, about the lecture, sure, again, just, lust is, an issue, it can grow fast, um, you have to cut it out before it starts, as it grows, and then it gets worse and worse. Arjuna thought, right, spiritual, like the Bhakti yoga was like the only way, or like, well, I know, finding a good balance between detachment, but still focusing on Krishna consciousness. So like not being in sense gratification, but like still having the thought in the back of your mind about like what you're doing and how you can align it with Krishna.
Very good. So basically, engage, but do it for Krishna. So engaging for the service. of Krishna. Very good point. Yes.
Well, first of all, but the first point you made was you didn't do it for him, otherwise I would have been okay. But the first point, and really, actually no, in the middle you said how Prabhupada he said that if we are having lusty desires in our mind intelligence, we should replace that with Krishna, and then so in the mind we can think of Krishna, we can do hearing and meaning of Bhagavatam, and then for intelligence we can reading Shastras, and we can analyze our scriptures, and for senses we can eat prasad and do the service of Krishna. We can drink holy water.
Rajnamu says that get into the kitchen. No, have that big what is that patela, that spoon, and stir the sweet and sweat. That way your lust will evaporate. You say that because senses become very lusty. Do that. You just he'll say in many lectures. Get into heavy services. Lust evaporates. But lust means so much of senses are getting disturbed and all that. Okay, just engage in service. And evaporate lust also. Anything? Any other point? Thank you. So much.
Like, not like I'm directly, but directly, So the ultimate achieve Pishab Prajna, and to achieve that one, like Krishna has mentioned the Nikam Karma Yoga. So once you do that Nikam Karma Yoga, like by avoiding lust, you can get the platform of Nikam Karma Yoga. But again, so in Nikam Karma Yoga, he is trying to see that perfect stage, which is Sthita.
Yeah, so what Prabhupada and Krishna, what Prabhupada recommends is, and Krishna also eventually, Bhakti Yoga. So Bhakti Yoga means you may be in sinful act, you may be coming from sinful background. But our process is not Karma Yoga. Our process is Bhakti.
Right.
So Bhakti Yoga means what? You directly engage in the service of the Lord. And so now you may be doing a lot of different, you may have different duties and activities. Everything should be done for the pleasure of Krishna. That is Bhakti Yoga teaches. Now we may not have that consciousness of Bhakti Yoga, meaning we may not be able to do it right now for the pleasure of Guru and Krishna and everything something like that. But this is the program what we are adopting. So when we are adopting that program, we may have our Karma Yoga standard, we may be sometimes Nashkama Karma Yoga, sometimes you'll be Karma Kanda also. Like something you're doing, only Karma Kanda point of view. Like how you just make something, I'm going to cook now, and I'll just eat food and I'll go. And you're not, no thought of Krishna. Somebody can have like that. Sometimes Krishna is so much not in our thoughts. So it can be sometimes just Karma Kanda within Bhakti Yoga only. So there are different contaminations what a sadhaka may carry while being in the program of Bhakti Yoga. Because Bhakti Yoga was the consciousness. No? So we are signing up with Bhakti Yoga program where we are doing everything for the pleasure of Krishna. That is how everything is designed. But we will be struggling with our own thing. Sometimes we will be Karma Yoga, sometimes Krishna Yoga, sometimes we will be Karma Kanda, sometimes we will be atheist also. Sometimes we will be acting like an atheist. Because our consciousness has grown so dull. We are not even thinking that Krishna is there. We are just acting in our own way. Becomes so whimsical or something like that. So that's why Bhakti Yoga means we have to know what is Bhakti Yoga. Bhakti Yoga means Anyabhilasita Shunyam, Jnana Karmadi Anavritam. So completely having the desire of just pleasing Krishna, serving Krishna, no other desire. So that is the Bhakti Yoga. So we take a Bhakti Yoga process and we purify this contamination. But this path is like Karma Yoga or Niskam Karma Yoga, that is a gradual path, which ordinarily somebody who has not come to Bhakti Yoga may gradually grow. It's like a gradual step. But somebody comes to Bhakti Yoga, he doesn't have to follow, like the procedures and forms of all different yogas. He will follow Bhakti Yoga only, but within that, the purification is required. He on his own, he will act on certain platforms, once he is not purified. See, once you are not a purified Bhakti, you are not doing, then some contamination is there of karma, jnana, that will be there. So that's why it is good to know what all things are there. So these tendencies will come up. You have to know this is not the right. We have to purify this. We do it for the pleasure of the Lord. जैसे बुक डिस्ट्रीब्यूशन स्कूल अनाउंसमेंट हमारा स्कूल भूल गया 2 डिवोटी का अनाउंस किया हमारा नहीं अनाउंस किया and we become so upset by that. So if you have become so upset by that, that means we may be which platform?
Not right.
We are still
Karma.
sakam karma.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it is for Lord only, but sakam. We are trying to have fruit also. So that is how. So that's how we can.
Not good. You were in class earlier than me, so you heard more than me. So now I'm upset with you.
What? So you got this point. Yes, Ajit, you want to say any point?
Yeah, Hare Krishna Prabhu, Dhanavad Pranam. So
Any-
like the point which I liked the most was like, where it was mentioned in the 42 verse, how Krishna consciousness makes the soul directly in connection with the supreme personality of Godhead. So the hierarchy of bodily functions as described here ultimately ends with the supreme soul. So that point, like once the mind becomes Krishna consciousness, then the body becomes Krishna consciousness.
Yeah, you can engage in Krishna service. Correct. Yes. Okay. You already shared. Okay. Thank you. Okay, bro. Thank you so much. Hare Krishna. Tomorrow, if you all can, 5:30 can we
Thank
start
you,
sharp?
Krishna.
5:30 can we start sharp?
4?
Possibly.
Yeah.
Can we
Tomorrow.
start at 4:30 or 4?
What time? 5?
5, yeah. Tomorrow.
5 is fine. Bro, for you, 5 is okay tomorrow?
Yes, probably works.
So we'll sharp start program. We'll not delay it.
Yeah, like my office was there, but tomorrow I'll come early. So
We'll make it 5. 5 to 6:30 we can.
But 6:30 because tomorrow's Thursday. I need to leave for the bus at 5:50, but I'll be gone today.
So 5 to 6:30 we do tomorrow. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Okay, thank you, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.